that accounts for the greatest amount of misery in most countries. It is mental illness. We've done this for 3 or 4 advanced countries where you're trying to explain whether somebody is in the bottom level of life satisfaction, and the single factor that explains the most of that prevalence of low life satisfaction is mental health. And then, of course, there's also physical health and human relationships, all of those more important in advanced countries, at least, than income. So it is really important that you're addressing that problem from the point of view of human well-being, not only, of course, of the individual, but of their families. Another important reason, and one that really weighs with governments, is the economic toll wrought by mental illness. As we know, mental illness often makes people less able to work or unable to work at all. It accounts for at least a half of all disability in most countries, and the OECD have calculated that it is reducing the national income of most countries by at least 4%. So if we could only help people with their mental health problem, we can get them into work so that they start paying taxes and not imposing the costs of whatever benefits there are to people in disability. So that's another very important argument. So if I could tell you a little bit of the history of what we've done in Britain, you may find this of some interest in terms of your own situation. So up to 2007, we had a situation where it was impossible to get psychological therapy unless you were practically suicidal. And we took the action to deal with this by creating a new service of psychological therapy led by psychological therapists rather than psychiatrists. The program had got 3 main components. First, training staff in evidence-based therapies for anxiety, all anxiety conditions, cognitive behavioral therapy, and for depression, also interpersonal therapy, brief psychodynamic therapy, but all based on evidence. Training staff, then creating services where they could work, and then measuring the outcomes of patients who were treated so that we knew and we could show to the world what results were being achieved. And we were getting 50% recovery rates. But this session-by-session outcome monitoring is very valuable also to the therapist and the patient, because it helps to see what progress has been made, in which directions and where the blockages are. So strongly to be recommended. So we've now got 750,000 people a year being treated in Britain by this service, and the service has been copied already in 6 countries and probably in process of being copied in another 6. So you might find it an interesting model to investigate, and we'd certainly be happy to help bring you up to date with what we do. The second issue, of course, is children. What I talked about before was adults with anxiety disorders and depression, what we call common mental disorders. Then there's children. Now, obviously, it makes no sense to wait till somebody becomes an adult to treat their problems, and at least a half of adult mental health problems, as you know, have already manifested themselves in childhood. particularly true with anxiety disorders. Most of adults who are treated for anxiety disorders have had them since often before the age of 10. So we have set up a parallel service similar to the one which I discussed before, called mental health support teams in schools. And again, I think to have therapists available to young people from primary school age is incredibly important. So we're talking there not only about anxiety conditions, which often start very young, but also conduct disorder, which often leads on to a very unhappy and destructive adult life. That can be treated, as you probably know, by the Incredible Years programme, devised by Caroline Webster Stratton, with very good long-term effects, including enormous saving of money to the state in terms of impact on crime and loss of income and unemployment. So a service for young people starting at primary age with anxiety and conduct disorder, and then of course coming into depression as that begins to arise in the teens. Very important. But thirdly and finally, even better, of course, is to prevent mental illness arising in the first place. And our schools are a very, very important lever which we have for dealing with that problem. So we have set up a very major trial, which we completed some years ago, of a 4-year curriculum from age 11 to 15 in life skills. It's called Healthy.
Novamente, pequenos problemas técnicos. O que é bom às vezes custa, não é? Temos condições de...
The minds, I'll tell you how to get it in a moment, but it is based on searching the world for all the evidence-based programs that had already been mounted to tackle problems not only of what they call social and emotional learning and sex and relationships and healthy living, but also serious mental health problems, awareness of media and how to handle that, understanding how to become a parent and what that will involve, and then the regular practice of mindfulness, which is practiced at the beginning of each lesson. This has been trialled, very effective in preventing mental health problems and increasing life satisfaction, so all along the spectrum, but especially with people, young people who are starting off at the bottom end of the scale. That is a program which can be accessed through an organisation called Bounce Forward. That's their website. And I would recommend thinking about introducing a curriculum into schools which specifically targeted at the teaching of life skills, one lesson a week, from, of course, primary as well as secondary. So, very many congratulations on tackling this problem. I hope that some of the things I've said might help suggest ways in which you you might do so, and very good luck with the rest of your conference. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lord Richard.
في أكبر